Update. Am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife after finding her late-night walks had a specific destination? Original post. Background. My wife, 43 female, and I, 43 male, were married for 16 years. Unfortunately, we grew apart. I was not blameless in that. It took two to get us into the position we were in. We were great with our kids, 10 and 13, but had fallen into a pattern of trading off parenting duties rather than parenting together. I switched to a job a few years ago that allowed me to work from home 2 to 3 days a week, and this seemed to make things worse. It felt like we were separated but living in the same house. I tried to repair our marriage, but she seemed increasingly resentful of the time I tried to spend with her. It normally ended with her yelling at me and storming off. I admit I may be a lot to deal with. I am not confrontational and normally shut down and tried to ignore her when she did this. I know this is a bad way of dealing with things, and I am working on it. I was very depressed, but trying to work through it. Toward mid-December, she started taking late-night walks after we put the kids to bed. I tried to give her space for her time and even offered to join her, but she preferred to go alone. I usually stayed up for her, frustrated or worried. I even bought her protective lights to keep her safe, as the roads in our area do not have lights or sidewalks. Fast forward to January 5th. She left at about 11 p.m. It was 28 degrees outside. By 2:26 a.m., she still wasn't back. I texted asking if she was still walking. No response for 10 minutes. I called. It rang once and then went to voicemail. So I did something kind of a-holy. I used the Find My Phone feature. I had never done this before, and I know it was an invasion of privacy, but a 4-hour walk in freezing weather until 3 a.m. felt completely abnormal. I was worried for her, but honestly, I was also frustrated and angry. I thought I could drive to her and bring her home. However, the location confused me. It showed her at a house in our neighborhood. Within a minute of me checking, 2 things happened. 1. She texted me saying she was almost home. 2. When I refreshed the map, her location services were turned off. When she returned, I asked her where she was, and she said, out walking. I confronted her with a screenshot. She claimed she may have walked down that street, which is a 30-minute walk from our house, but couldn't say for sure. She insisted she was not in any house and that the map must have locked on to that location. I felt used and lied to. I slept on the couch. She continued to deny everything, saying the phone was not accurate. She was my wife, and I wanted to believe her, but I needed advice. So I turned to the best source of wisdom, Reddit. The comments were brutal but helpful. I took another look at the location data and realized 2 things. 1. I had been to the house before. It was saved in my phone as the home of one of my daughter's friends, who lived with her single dad. 2. It showed that she was logged into his Wi-Fi. The next night, as she was getting ready for a walk, I confronted her again. I told her I knew who she was with and about the Wi-Fi. She finally admitted she was at the house, but claimed they were just friends, and that she needed someone to talk to. We live a 20-minute drive from her sister, mother, and other friends, but she claimed she saw his light on while walking and decided to hang out. At this point, I was very angry and told her we were done. Throughout the week, things were very tense. She accused me of not trusting her, trying to control her, and not letting her have friends. 6 days later on Saturday, she left early to go shopping. I took the kids and the dog for a walk at a local park. After about a mile, we looked ahead and saw a family approaching us. It was my wife, walking with this guy and his kid, holding the guy's hand. She wasn't wearing her glasses, so we got fairly close before she noticed. When she spotted us, she actually ducked behind him and turned around to walk in the other direction. I did the same so we wouldn't make a scene. My kids asked why we were walking away from mommy, and I just told them we would ask her later. She came home hours later, furious at me for being at that park. Her car was not in the parking lot, so how was I supposed to know? She yelled at me and then lied to the kids, telling them she had just bumped into him and didn't see us. I was done. I decided I could not trust anything she said and told her I was applying for a divorce. I know I could have tried to work through it, but honestly, why? I was always the repairer of our relationship, and I just could not let this go. She called me every name she could think of. She said I was controlling. I don't think I am. Accused me of cheating when I worked long hours. I didn't. And accused me of watching spicy videos. I plead the fifth. I did slow walk the divorce for months, hoping she would propose counseling or try to make amends, but she did nothing. I am not the good guy in this. I did invade her privacy by tracking her phone. I did choose to file for divorce rather than continue trying to make things work. I could have worked harder and insisted on counseling before we split. We do have kids, and I have heard of people putting up with each other until the kids leave the house, but that would have been another 8 years. So, am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife after finding that her late-night walks had a specific destination? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. She cheated on you and lied to you about it. Then she tried to blame you and obviously made you feel like the bad guy. If she is unwilling to admit fault and hasn't asked you to try therapy with her, you can't really continue to stay married. I'm sorry this happened to you and your children. Based on what you wrote, you did nothing wrong. If my husband was unreachable after midnight and I had the option to search his location, I absolutely would, because I would be worried about his safety. She could have been injured. If she wasn't doing something wrong, she would have been apologizing for making you worry. Don't let her turn her own guilt back on you. Ah, the battle cry of the caught cheater. How dare you invade my privacy? How dare she take her boyfriend to the park where your kids were playing? Easiest not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She's trying to deflect blame onto you. Also, I personally don't think you invaded her privacy. She was out walking in freezing temperatures for over 2 hours. It's reasonable that you'd be worried, even if you admit you were also angry and frustrated. It's reasonable to check where she was to see if she was safe or needed help. Exactly. It's reasonable, well, understandable anyway, to jump to, what if she's twisted her ankle and/or is lying face down in a ditch somewhere when you're panicking? I would assume that my partner needed my help if he was gone walking for 2+ hours in freezing weather too. Yes, OP didn't behave perfectly in this relationship, but at least he didn't cheat. She could have tried harder to repair the relationship with her husband too. OP not the a-hole in my opinion. Good luck with the rest of your life. I hope you meet someone who doesn't cheat on you in the future. Now for the update. Thank you to everyone for all of the comments. I am amazed at the number of responses. I try to read through all of the comments and really appreciate your words. I wanted to start by addressing some of them and then provide an update. Why did you put up with this for a year? The original post is from a year ago. How did the same thing happen twice? No, this did not happen twice to me. Once was enough. This happened in January 2025. I asked for a divorce about a week afterward. I'm just getting around to posting this now, December 2025, after discovering this sub. Why didn't you confront the guy? Okay, if you mean physically confront him, no. Honestly, I do not blame him. He did not tempt her or trick her, and had no promise to me apart from common decency. If my ex could convince me that this was made up, then I have no idea what she told him. This is obvious. What kind of a fool are you? You should have seen this. Yes, I agree that in hindsight it is obvious. But when you are in a relationship for 16 years, you really trust the other person, or at least think you do. I really had no proof that she was cheating apart from these events. The change in the relationship was gradual, but in the end, I found myself friendless and isolated, with really only one source of truth, who was telling me that I was crazy. I still loved her, and she was still telling me that she loved me. To me, that meant something. Finally, I have heard that people repair relationships with counseling even after cheating, or stay together because of the kids. But there were signs. Oh, there were signs. One of my biggest fights with my ex was before Christmas. We were decorating the house with the kids and some of their friends, including the guy's daughter. My ex was not helping. I think she was decorating another part of the house. So I left the last of the tree decorations for us to do together and told her so. I went upstairs to put away some laundry. And when I came down, the last of the decorations were on the tree and another guy, the same guy, was putting the star on the top of the tree, my tree, with a big grin on his face. I was so angry, but I did not want to yell in front of the kids. When I confronted her later, she said that it was not a big deal, that I was being weird, I was not there, and anyway, he is taller, so it was easier for him. So, for the update, it is now December of the following year, and the documents are signed. I will be divorced in a few weeks. The process was horribly painful, but I am happier than I have been in years. It was tough at first. I made the decision to cut off all of our joint friends. I did not want them to take sides, though this was probably unhealthy. Since I do not have family in the country, I was alone, feeling like a failure and a reject. I was spiraling fast. Fortunately, I did get help in time and found a wonderful therapist who helped me and does not take any BS. The divorce took a long time. My ex had knee surgery in February, and I took care of her as best I could. I was trying to still be a good husband and figure things out, but things became worse and worse. I did still love her, but my ex made no attempt at reconciliation for months. Finally, my therapist told me she does not want you anymore. Leave her alone. And it finally sank in that we were done. My therapist encouraged me to start taking notes every time I spoke to my ex and showed me how to set boundaries by communicating only via text or email. This drove my ex crazy, but ended all of the confusion about what was said in the past. My ex still refuses to use a shared parenting schedule, which has caused no end of trouble, but we have a system documented in our divorce documents. I tried to make the divorce as simple as possible with my ex, but it did not work. We went through 2 mediation services. Both times she walked away until I finally lawyered up. She tried to give me visitation rights instead of joint custody of our kids. She refused to pay any bills while living in the house, except for some groceries. She tried to trick me into giving her the house and paying off the remaining mortgage. She agreed to take half of our pets, but ended up abandoning them in the house. I kept them. She refused to pay any of our shared debt. She finally moved out and, among other things, took every stitch of clothing for the kids, leaving me with nothing. My worst experience was with the sale of the house. It was truly the closing from hell. I attended the closing while my ex was vacationing with her family. We had discussed the proceeds being split 50-50, but when I saw the documents she had sent to the closing agent, I was shocked to see that she had requested that 100% of the funds be sent to her account. I called her, and she was furious that I disturbed her on the beach and told me to just sign it. What followed was 3 hours of me calling her, the escrow agent calling her, and our realtor calling her, while we tried to keep the buyers in the room. All she had to do was send an email from her phone with the updated instructions. I had to choose between trying to claw the money back later or walking away from the sale. Finally, my lawyer spoke to her lawyers with the intent of suing her for any future closing costs and any decrease in the sale price of the home. She relented, and we were able to sell the house. As I said, it is now December and the divorce is almost final. I am happy and comfortable with my menagerie of pets, who are a lot to manage but whom I love dearly, especially my wonderful opinionated husky. I have a great relationship with my kids. With the advice of his therapist, I told my 14-year-old son what happened. We had some difficult conversations, but it brought us closer. I decided not to try to reconnect with my old friends. One tried to yell at me in front of my own kids, and others helped my ex move. I have no idea what my ex has been telling them, but only one reached out to ask how I was doing. Bizarrely enough, I will miss my mother-in-law, who was a dear lady and a gem. I now have a great group of friends that match my weird energy. It might surprise people, but after over 9 months of denial and telling me I am crazy, my ex and this guy are officially together. I wish him the best of luck. As for me, I wanted to wait until the papers were signed before I asked anyone out. And I have a date this weekend with someone very nice. My first date in 16 years. It's been a hell of a year, but I think I'm finally ready for my second act. Last story. Am I the a-hole for threatening to divorce my wife if she doesn't change our infant daughter's name to one we agreed on? I'm a 31-year-old man. I mostly use Reddit to ask about hardware questions, so this is a throwaway account. Also, I'm Hispanic, so excuse any mistakes. My wife, 32 female, and I met at an anime convention in university and started dating a few years later. It's always been part of our story and relationship, both being nerds and everything. We have been married for 6 years now. We have been trying for a baby since we bought a house. We made 2 lists of names while trying, since we had a bit of a hard time. She very badly wanted to name our child something that would reference a fandom we like, and I agreed it would be very cute, but I told her it would be better if the reference was subtle. I told her I did not want our child to have a name that was too obviously tied to a fandom or character. She said she understood. She got pregnant, and we each chose a top contender from our lists. However, when we found out the baby was a girl, she became fixated on naming our daughter Vriska, from Homestuck. Specifically Vriska. I said no multiple times. She insisted it was meaningful, because fandoms are part of our relationship. She wouldn't even hear me out on any other names from Homestuck during that month. Eventually, we had a very heartfelt conversation about it, and ended up agreeing that she could choose the name, but from our previously written list, which already contained plenty of subtle references. Early in her 3rd trimester, her mother offered to organize a baby shower for us. Our daughter will be the first girl of this generation in her family, so she was very excited. Everything was going great, until we opened the gifts from her direct family. Her mom gifted her a set of onesies with the name Vriska printed across the front. Her brother gifted us a sort of wooden plaque with Vriska burned into it for the nursery. I was very upset, but I did not say anything. I confronted her once we got home, saying we had agreed not to do this. She immediately exploded, yelling, crying, accusing me of being ashamed of our hobbies. I ended up having to try to calm her down while still trying to maintain my point. After about 20 minutes of this, I firmly said we were not naming our daughter that. She grabbed my right arm and dug her nails into it while screaming. It was extremely weird. She's always been a bit impulsive, but she's never done anything like this. She grabbed the onesies and called her family from the front patio. She was on the phone the whole time her mom drove over and would scream if I tried to come out. She stayed with her mom and would not pick up my calls or open the door when I visited. She ended up being induced at the hospital at 33 weeks. After the birth, she tried to come back home. I said I could never forgive her for making me miss the birth of my first daughter, that we would need couples and individual therapy, and I asked her if she really did name our baby that. She said yes. I told her to leave. I said all mistakes were reparable, but if she did not agree to change our daughter's name to something we had actually discussed, I would file for divorce and fight her for custody. Her family and most of my family think I'm being unreasonable, and that I can just call the baby by her middle name. My sister said I should never put conditions on starting therapy. What do I do? How can I fix this? Am I being unreasonable for expecting my wife not to undermine me in such a dramatic way? Should I agree to let her move in and go to counseling before bringing the name up again? Wow, your wife is treating your child like a freaking toy. This is doomed. She made him miss the birth of his first child. As a woman, this is unforgivable. Forget the dumbass name. Nothing she does can make up for that. Not the a-hole. At this point, you'd be divorcing her over way more than just a name. She's shown that she will physically attack you, abandon you, and keep you from your daughter in order to get her way. I think you should move forward with the divorce because your wife is highly unstable, and it sounds like her family all enable it. This most likely won't get better, and you should leave before she ends up pregnant again. This is the most important comment here. She's a liar, an emotional manipulator, and she's crossed the line into physical abuse. Divorce is the only way.